Before I move on to the actual building of my new case, I'm just going to go over briefly about my current computer and the plans for this case. So first off, my current computer, I'm not going to talk about the components, although it's got enough power for playing modern games at reasonable frame rates and reasonable settings. But the problem with this computer is the fact that the case isn't of high quality, as in it's okay for putting components in and it will work, but it has plastic covering the entire thing on the outside, and it generally doesn't look good anymore. As in, when I bought it, I liked the look of it, I thought it looked cool, but that was years ago, and since then I've grown up and I'm more after a sort of plain look that I know I will like no matter how long I have the case for. My first requirement for this computer case is that it needs to be able to blend into its surroundings. It needs to act technically as part of the furniture. And this is perhaps one of the odd requirements, as normally you would want a computer to stand out, you want it to show off. I want you to be able to walk into the room it's in, look at it, and not really notice it, but still completely appreciate its presence. So this is going to be sorted out by the computer case not standing out and being kind of plain. Although saying this, it is still, in my opinion, going to be a piece of art and something that I love the look of. So the next requirement is it has to be as quiet as possible. This is going to be achieved by having essentially one fan as the main intake, no exhaust fans, and the only other fans included in the computer are going to be called the CPU and GPU. By doing this, I'm going to be lowering the amount of noise which is given off, and in order to have these spin slowly, I'm going to be having power efficient components, and to ensure that I'm then not bothered by other things, I'm going to be reading the comments on products to ensure that stuff like coil wine is not a problem, or at least as little as a problem I can get it. And the final requirement is the computer has to be powerful, as in I have to use it every day, so I don't want it to be slowing me down. This will be achieved by having a high-end GPU and a high-end CPU in it, but it also means that stuff like the motherboard has to have as many features of it on it as possible, and I have to choose it specifically for the features I use. Currently, I can't see anything like that around, although for the next generation of motherboards, after the Zen CPU comes out and the next Intel CPUs come out, perhaps something will be available, and at that point, I'll lay down the money for the components and start to actually build the proper computer inside the case. So what I'm going to be using for this case build, at least for this part, is going to be an aluminium angle, which is 2.5 meters long and 15 millimeters wide and high. I'm also going to be using 4 steel bars, each of them 1 meter long, measuring 20 millimeters wide and 2 millimeters thick. So the first step in terms of building this case is going to be measuring out where I need to cut in the aluminium angle. So this is going to be a series of 60-degree cuts in order to bend it around and to make a hexagon. All of these are 11 centimeters between each other, and this will give me enough room to put components actually inside the case. I did make a test piece just to prove the concept I was going after, in which I also used a Dremel to test out the tool that we plan to use. The Dremel part of this didn't work out as well, as I needed more accuracy, although the proof of concept worked really well, as cutting the grooves and then bending it resulted in a very nice finish for the final piece. This will be what will be in the corners for the top and the bottom of the case. So in terms of the real cutting of the aluminium angles, I then use a hacksaw in which to get the same sort of cut, although this time a bit more accurate. I then file down each of these in order to make the edges flat, which will hopefully help in order to get a nice cut, along with also take out a bit more material which I may have left just so I don't go over in terms of the cut. After this, I went ahead and did the actual bending of the aluminium angles, and this worked out very well. Both pieces have ended up being almost identical to each other, and as much as I'm going to need to adjust them here and there as I go on, they are good enough for now. So moving on to the steel, for this, first I did a proof of concept again in terms of what the cases actually look like. So here you can see the aluminium angles are at each end with the steel running across the middle. The steel will actually be on 3 sides at the end, and this will be the actual main support of the case. So steel, I didn't realise how hard it would be to actually cut through, but it's a lot harder than aluminium, and therefore it took a lot longer to cut, and I actually wanted to make sure I cut slightly too big as I could file down afterwards, as each of these pieces had to be essentially within millimeters of each other in terms of size. If there were any more than that, then I could notice this easily. I would then have to file it down a bit more, which took a lot of effort as well. Once all of these were cut though, I could then start to put the holes where I'm going to be putting screws in to attach everything together. So I drilled the steel and the aluminium separately. I wish I now drilled them together as I could get the holes far closer to where they need to be, as all of these had to line up perfectly, otherwise the screws would not go in it. I've managed to get it so the screws are holding everything in place and everything seems sturdy, but only with one screw in each the top and the bottom of each steel piece. This is quite disappointing, and I'm going to need to go back and try and fix this somehow, although for now, considering I'm only holding everything together to do more measuring, it's fine. In order to get a thread, I actually had to using a tap, which is a specific type of tool, to get the screw thread into each hole I drilled. This was good, apart from the tool I used wasn't very high quality, so it did wear away very quickly. I managed to just get enough holes tapped in order to put everything together, although I have got a couple more tools on the way, which should help in the future. And here you can see the actual finish of the case, at least for now. So at first, I'm going to just have all of the screws back from the outside going inwards. At the end, they're going to be from the inwards going outwards, as I want to have the outside completely flat, as I'm going to be then putting steel or aluminium sides onto the case. So that's it for this part of the build log. If you like this video, then like this video. If you dislike it, sure, dislike it, but also put it down in the comments down below why you didn't like it, and I can perhaps change this for a future video. If you want to stay tuned to the rest of this build log series and any other videos that I make, then subscribe to my channel. It will be the way to do that, as it puts all my videos straight into your subscription feed. And if you want to see more videos like this one, then also put down in the comments down below, and then I can get right on board with making them. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.